Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
All right, we're going to recap camp, what happened in day 2. We're going to talk about a previous free agent target of the Cleveland Browns, a big money free agent target of the Cleveland Browns that has just re-entered the market. We're also going to talk about what's actually going on with the quarterback situation and if people are kind of overreacting and drawing conclusions way too early. If you've been watching my channel for any period of time, you know the answer to that question, which is yes, people have been drawing conclusions way too early for like 3 months now. People are starting to sober up to the fact that the Browns quarterback competition was never, is never, and has never been this 4-way competition that everybody swears somebody told them it'd be, right? It's just not that. It's never been that. I've been pretty adamant that the only 2 people who are realistically going to compete for this job were Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. And really what we're going to see during camp is Kenny Pickett taking the bulk of the first team reps. That doesn't guarantee that he's going to be the starter, but that's the guy that they need to give the reps to in order to make the determination whether he would be the starter, right? You know what you have in Joe Flacco, plus he's old. He's not going to take that many snaps, right, in training camp. There will be some days where he gets a lot of snaps in. There will be some days where he doesn't. But for the most part, the guy who you need to evaluate, the guy who there is the biggest rush to evaluate is Kenny Pickett. That's the guy who's not guaranteed to be here next year. That's the guy who has no years left on his contract. That's the guy who's under 30 but over 25. That's the guy you need to evaluate right now. I know people want to get to that place with Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, but the truth is that the Browns have plenty of time to evaluate Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel. They have the entire 2025 season and will likely have the bulk of the 2026 season to be able to evaluate these guys in some respect. There's no rush to figure out what they have in those guys. The guy they have to spend the resources on to figure out who they have and they need to figure out before the start of the season is Kenny Pickett. This was always how this was going to go. Whether they drafted Shedeur, whether they just took Dillon Gabriel, and when they took them both, this was always what was gonna happen. When Kevin Stefanski talks about having a plan in pencil, this is what he's talking about. This is the plan in pencil. Let's see what Kenny Pickett can do with first team reps. If he stinks, Joe Flacco is the safety net. We also have the rookies we could throw in there, and we could just move on from Kenny Pickett after this camp period. And if Kenny Pickett, let's say Kenny Pickett's in a situation where he does not win this camp battle, right? Where he looks bad at camp, right? We go worst case scenario with Kenny Pickett. The Browns will try to trade him. If they can't trade him, they will cut him and put him on the practice squad, right? That is what's happening. I understand some people had some hopes that it would roll out differently, but the Browns were never, ever in any reality, ever, nor would it be smart to, by the way, to ever split these quarterback reps for the first team 4 ways. That was never going to happen. And there's not a team, a competent team, that would ever decide to split first team reps 4 ways even between 4 quarterbacks. That's not how any team is going to handle this. It was always going to be more Kenny Pickett, then Joe Flacco with the first team, occasionally Dillon Gabriel, and then less so occasionally Shedeur Sanders. The evaluation for Shedeur The evaluation for Dillon Gabriel will likely happen during the 2025 season and during the 2026 offseason. They have time to make that evaluation, whereas with Kenny Pickett, they need to know what they have now. That's why he's going to get most of first team reps. And that's why it doesn't necessarily guarantee that he's going to be the starter, because I know people are going to hear me say, I'm pretty sure Kenny Pickett's going to get the bulk of the first team reps in camp and panic and think, oh my God, he's going to start. There's a large possibility that he gets all those first team reps. The Browns decide he's not worth it. Let's just start Joe Flacco and move on with the young guys. That's entirely possible. There's a lot of time to get those young guys caught up with first team reps during the season. There's a lot of time during the offseason next year, right? They're going to get their chance eventually. But right now, it's going to be about figuring out what you have in Kenny Pickett. And it might be a situation where he's so bad so early, which I don't rule out, that they just give up on the plan entirely. Again, Kevin has referred to what I believe this plan as a plan in pencil, which means it can be erased easily if need be. They're not committed to Kenny Pickett as a starter. They're not committed to Joe Flacco as the starter. That's why there's going to be room for a rookie to outshine everybody during this preseason process and get first team reps when that wasn't originally the plan, because they have no commitment side to these guys. And neither should you, right? You should have no emotional attachment. If you're just a regular Browns fan, you're not coming from Oregon or Colorado, you're just a regular Browns fan, there should be no emotional attachment to any of these quarterbacks. Whoever gets the job done is who I want starting at quarterback. Now, there is another part to this, right? Now that we're off the whole, who's ever going to get first team reps, or they're ever going to split it 4 ways. They were never going to do that. But there might be some questions why it feels like Shedeur in training camp seems to be getting less reps than ever before. Now, some people have speculated that this has something to do with some kind of like unofficial punishment for the speeding incident, which would make sense if you're the Browns. You don't want to set the precedent to a quarterback, especially that it's okay to risk your body like that, because if you're just looking at this from a cynical Browns perspective, let's say Shedeur does end up being the starting quarterback of this team, and he does something like Kellen Winslow did, where he destroys his body playing around with a motorcycle, or playing around because he's speeding, hits something, slips off the road. We saw a similar thing happen to Myles Garrett a couple of years ago, when Myles was going like 60 in the rain in a supercar and he flew off the road, let alone imagine going like 100 plus. So if you're the Browns, you don't ever want that for your quarterback, right? Like, if you don't want to build your whole team around the quarterback and then he get injured like that. So you got to do something there. So yeah, I think some of the lack of reps is part of a punishment. I think another factor is that there's just not that many reps to go around. The Browns are really going to focus a lot of these reps towards Kenny Pickett. That's really going to be their main focus. Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco. Everybody else is going to have to get in where they can fit in. And I don't think the Browns are as healthy as they would want to be at wide receiver right now. So there's really not as many opportunities to really run a true third or fourth team unit out there right now with their current 90-man roster that they have, given that they have a good amount of people on PUP or injured reserve. So some of that seems like it's part of it. Some of it seems like part of it is also just to send a subtle message to Shedeur that, like, hey, if you want to be the starting quarterback here, that's stuff you cannot be doing as a starting quarterback. And it's unacceptable. It'd be more unacceptable if he was the starter versus where he is right now on the depth chart. We're hearing that the Browns are going to keep 4 quarterbacks. It's more noise that I think Mary Kay's been pretty adamant on, that the Browns could keep 4 quarterbacks. I tend to agree that that's more of a possibility than Browns folks. Like, you know, Jack Duffin is somebody I have on this channel a lot, and I respect his opinion on the salary cap. He's somebody who does not believe that the Browns are going to keep 4 quarterbacks, and he has his reasons for it based on like what the Browns have done in the past, how it would make sense money-wise. I just wonder how much the Browns are truly going to be committed to making a ton of sense there, given that this is not a season where it looks like they're trying to maximize everything like it has been in the past, where they were more strict on it, right? And if there is some flexibility, they would exercise it most certainly at the quarterback position. So I think there is some truth to that. Also, it might just be the classic Andrew Berry bluff, right? We saw this with Travis Hunter during the draft season, where he's just kind of pumping up the ideal of like, oh yeah, I'll definitely keep 4 quarterbacks just so you can feel like you have to trade for one of these guys if you really want them. And when I say one of these guys, we're probably talking about Kenny Pickett. But yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff going on with the quarterback room. I do want to shift gears and talk about Quinn Sean Junkins. There have been a couple of updates in this, right? One of the updates is that the alleged abused in this situation has indicated that Quinn Sean might have done, I don't know to what level, but some level of domestic violence, not to the level that it arose to recently, but some level of it has been an issue in that relationship, or at least has allegedly been an issue in that relationship. This is getting a bit personal, right? Like, did he hit her or not? That's really where I'm at. I don't really care about how good the relationship was, what the inner workings was, who did who dirty. I don't care about that, right? If he hit her, then there's really no excuse, and he needs to be punished for that. And the Browns will likely, on top of whatever suspension he gets from the league, do some kind of soft punishment for him, right? Like, just to send a message that that's not good, because we can't have you missing games on that again. You got to think about it from a cynical perspective. If you're talking about why Cleveland would want to do a punishment, they're not just going to do it for their own good. They got to do it because they think it's going to be better overall for the team. So that's there. Another question this raises to me is like, okay, when it seemed like there was only the one incident that he did this, it was more believable that the Browns knew nothing about this at the time that they drafted him. Now I'm starting to question that. Now, I can believe that none of this popped up at Ohio State, because from what I've read, and I don't like getting people business all like this, but from what I could tell in the police report, it does not seem like they were together while he was at Ohio State. So it seems like they were away. Then they got back together this summer after he got drafted. And I can see how maybe nobody at Ohio State caught this or knew of anything about this, or maybe they knew vaguely of something going on in Ole Miss, but when he didn't bring her with him, they just didn't really monitor it. I can see how this slipped through the cracks at Ohio State. Ole Miss, though, it does seem like if she is telling the truth that there has been other incidents like this with Quinn Sean in the past, I do start to wonder if there was more information there to be found about this situation than what we were previously led to believe, specifically at Ole Miss, right? Did the Browns do their due diligence at Ole Miss, where he played the bulk of his career in researching the character of Quinn Sean Junkins? Because it's one thing if somebody just does this out the blue. I'm not going to blame a team for drafting him. But if there is a history before of similar situations that popped up, and you ignore that, you can't play surprise when it happens, right? Like if Mike Green gets in another situation in Baltimore, I'm not going to buy that it caught him off guard because he already had a case when Baltimore drafted him. So that's really the question there, right? Part of why I was willing to be like, I don't think they knew about this, was because it seemed like there was only the one, but now there's an alleged other incidents here that probably happened while he was at Ole Miss. You know, if you're just looking at the timeline, and I'm wondering, okay, did the Browns do their due diligence and research here, or did they know and not care, which is a whole nother problem in itself. On top of that, we don't even know if Quinn Sean's going to report to camp at this point. This is very strange. It makes me very concerned that there is another shoe to drop in this Quinn Sean Junkins story. You know, because it doesn't seem like it seems like he's staying away from the team on purpose. It doesn't seem like Andrew is trying to get him to report to camp. It doesn't seem like Kevin is trying to get him to report to camp. They're all acknowledging that he's not here and he's not signed and that they don't know when they're going to sign him, which is strange. But they're not really putting the pressure on him to show up. So it's like, is there another shoe to drop in this story? Is it get worse than what we know right now? And that's just something to put a pin in and pay attention to, because the longer and longer Quinn Sean goes without showing up to camp and signing his rookie deal, the more and more I feel like this is just the opening salvo to a much, much larger controversy, or story at the very least, if not controversy, about Quinn Sean Junkins' contract status with the Cleveland Browns. So, this is something I kind of disregarded when I first saw it. I was like, okay, it doesn't seem like something. But the responses from Andrew Berry today and Kevin Stefanski were just strange. And that was enough to kind of swing me away from thinking everything's just kind of procedural at this point. Those were weird responses, and something feels off there. That's just my own intuition. You let me know if something feels off with this Quinn Sean thing more than we know, because it just seems like the longer this story goes on, it gets worse. And it's like, I don't think we're done with it. And that's what's concerning. Y'all let me know. Let's get to the next topic, which is, so another thing popped up that I thought was interesting, right? A couple of years ago, I remember hearing a lot of smoke from people behind the scenes, people who knew things about the Browns being really into the idea of bringing in Christian Wilkins for big money, right? At the time, it was between the Browns and the Houston Texans, and then the Raiders swooped in and spent a lot of money on Christian Wilkins to bring. But now, shockingly, the Raiders have released Christian Wilkins with the designation of a terminated vested veteran. His time in Las Vegas is now over due to how Wilkins treated the rehab from his foot injury he suffered last season. The Raiders voided the remaining $35.2 million of guaranteed money left on Wilkins' contract last month, and today filed a grievance with the NFLPA. Now, everybody's first thought after seeing that, admittedly, my first thought after hearing the Raiders have released Christian Wilkins is, oh my God, are the Browns going to be in on Christian Wilkins? I mean, that would make sense. That last paragraph, I think, will scare off the Cleveland Browns, in my opinion. We'll see, but I think that last paragraph will scare them off. Let's read that last paragraph again. Due to how Wilkins treated rehab from his foot injury, the Raiders, this is the key word, voided the remaining $35 million of guaranteed. It is not easy for a team to get away with the claim to void your guarantees in the NFL. That is not something easy to do. If you want evidence of why I know this is not easy to do, look at how hard ownership fights against giving out guaranteed money in general. If it was easy to get rid of guaranteed money, they wouldn't fight that hard over it. They wouldn't care about Deshaun Watson getting $230 million. They wouldn't blackball Lamar Jackson over that attempt to get the $230 million. They would not care if it were that easy to get out of guaranteed money. The NFL, and most importantly, the people who work for the Raiders, know for a fact that that is not an easy claim to get away with. That is going to be a claim that they're going to have to fight and prove over time. So if a NFL team, regardless of how I feel about them, right, how well they're ran, if they're a clown show or not, regardless of that, it's basic competence that you would not void somebody's guarantees if you didn't have a rock solid case on it, right? People thought the Browns had a solid enough case to void Deshaun Watson's guarantees. They never even attempted. And there was like evidence that he was out the boot early and maybe being a little bit irresponsible with how fast he was trying to come back. And even then that resulted in Deshaun finishing his rehab up in Cleveland, which I think was to avoid that from happening. So the fact that his guarantees, Christian Wilkins, got voided is significant. Now, we don't know if that's going to be upheld or proven to be true, but it is significant. Apparently, this is a debate about whether Christian Wilkins should have had surgery and when he should have had surgery for a foot or ankle injury that he has had. Either way, this to me, for a team like the Cleveland Browns, is a screaming red flag. There's really no scenario where I think this is a situation where it makes sense for Cleveland to get him if there's any validity to why the Raiders could void those guarantees. Because if he has done something that has allowed the Raiders to void his guarantees, I'm sorry, that's a telltale sign that he don't give a damn. It's not just a telltale sign, by the way. It's a $35 million sign that he don't give a damn. I don't have $35 million of don't give a damn in me. I've never seen somebody who has it. So if he did something that allows them to avoid $30+ million take it from his hands, it was guaranteed from him because he don't give a damn that much. You really trying to bring this dude to a team that won 3 games last year and you think he gonna give a damn? I don't know. I don't know about that one. And when you're a team coming off a 3-win season, you do not need to bring in players who don't give a damn, right? When you think you're going to be good and you got a lot of leadership, that's when you could bring in a Jadeveon Clowney or two, right? If you're the Kansas City Chiefs, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, if you're the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, you can bring in somebody who don't give a damn and give them a shot. When you're the Cleveland Browns, the odds of that working out for you are just dramatically lower. Because why would somebody who did not give a damn in Las Vegas suddenly give a damn in Cleveland? You know, that don't make much sense to me. It's part of my skepticism about this whole Deontay Johnson thing. Dude didn't give a damn in Baltimore. He didn't give a damn in Houston. But I'm supposed to believe he's going to care in Cleveland? Like, I don't know. It just don't seem like something that's going to happen. But yeah, that Christian Wilkins thing, the guarantees possibly being voided, that's interesting. It will also be interesting to watch how that process goes because something might happen in that process that might open the door for the Browns doing the same thing or something similar to Deshaun Watson. Kind of to wrap up on what happened yesterday in training camp, there's still a weird situation going on with Quinn Sean Junkins. Honestly, how Andrew Berry talked about that situation made me feel like that situation's even weirder than we know, which is very concerning. And you know, that's not the only thing I've been concerned about, right? Like I'm wondering if we're going to get an update on what's going on with Mike Hall, somebody that we thought would be back for camp, not back for camp. And then, you know, what are the Browns' solution here at the running back position? Like, are they going to sign any running backs? Jerome Ford's hurt right now. You know, right now you're down to Pierre Strong being running back 1. Like, is that what anybody wants? A lot of questions going on about the Browns early on in camp. It's not been the smoothest start to camp, I think. And unfortunately, I don't think they're building off of what I felt like was a pretty strong mini camp, right? So we'll see what happens. They got some news to kind of handle, but let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.